Hello, I am catching up on last week's video that I didn't get up because we have had tradies through our house all week and it just put me in such a funk that I got out of my schedule and didn't get a video up. So I'm coming to you from our uncompleted kitchen. We are partway through our kitchen renovation. I would say we are like 85% of the way there. We're still waiting on a few more pieces. But we've changed from a completely white kitchen to this gorgeous walnut. There is still a panel that's going to go under here. And then we have these beautiful tiles. These tiles are from a company called Palette. I believe they're based in the Netherlands. And I saw a video on TikTok about their tiles a couple of years ago. And I just absolutely fell in love with them. And I knew that one day I would have their tiles in my house somewhere. Granted, I wasn't even in this house 2 years ago. So this was when I was living back up in Auckland in my little townhouse. I knew that one day when I had a bigger house and I was going to renovate it, these tiles would end up in here. The cool thing about Palette is that they are like fully customizable. So I picked the colors and the patterns. They've got a lot of different colors you can choose between and a lot of different patterns. This is what I landed on. I will say if you are going to order from them, I highly recommend that you get a sample because the blue that you're seeing, when I ordered it online, I thought I was getting like a light minty green and it arrived in its blue. Fortunately, I did like the blue, so I ended up placing the bulk order for the blue anyway, but just something to keep in mind. Now, it is a very gloomy day here in Christchurch, and the video I had planned just was not going to work with this lighting, and I'm heading up to Auckland tomorrow. I'm back on Wednesday. I then leave for Melbourne on Thursday, so there's just no way that I could get that video filmed this week. And like I said, I've been in a bit of a funk, so I could have filmed it on the weekend, but I just didn't feel up to it. So this video is just like a little chatty video from my kitchen, my uncompleted kitchen, and I thought we could talk about my style words. These are the words that help me get dressed in the morning. I've been using them for the last 2 years, and I primarily use them together. Like these 3 words, I have an element of each of those words in every outfit that I wear. But something that I've realized recently is there is nuance to that, and that I can be just one word and explore that word. So we'll get into a little bit of that, but let's talk about my style words and how I found them. This isn't necessarily like a how-to guide on how to find your style words, but I feel like if I share how I found mine, that might be helpful to you. So in terms of finding my style words, I had to really analyze my wardrobe, analyze the clothing that I am drawn to, the pieces of clothing that I'm buying, the brands that I'm shopping, and how would I describe those. So the first style word that I chose was feminine, and this is particularly in the silhouettes that I'm choosing. And I think a key thing to say is that what feminine is to me might not be what it is to you. So it's all personal interpretation of these words. But for me, feminine, particularly in the silhouettes that I'm choosing. So because I have kind of like an hourglass shape, I find that kind of accentuating my shape, I find that to be quite feminine. You might not be able to tell because I'm wearing a baggy shirt, but I do have a waist under here. My proportions are really quite bizarre in that I find it very hard to shop for jeans. I was explaining to my husband and I asked him, I said, what do you think is a big discrepancy between someone's waist and hips? Like what measurement do you consider to be quite a big discrepancy? And he goes, probably like 10 to 15 centimeters. And I was like, try 40 centimeters. The difference between my waist and my hips are 40 centimeters. That's why I find it so difficult to find jeans. So I tend to wear a lot of dresses, and I particularly love the dresses that I have from Après Studio because they kind of have this ruched top. So they really hug my figure and show off my waist. And then they hit me at a point where it kind of passes my belly and the skirt goes out and it just looks so pretty. So yeah, that is my first, we went on a little bit of a tangent, but that is my first style word is feminine. Next style word that I use is edgy. Now this is one that I feel like I could see leaving this year. It is one that I've kind of always gone back to for, I would say, the last 5 years. I would always say edgy was a part of my style, but I found myself less drawn to it kind of in the last 6 months. However, it is still very much prominent in my current wardrobe. I think the only way for me to truly like disappear the word edgy is if I was to actually just really dislike the things that I have that I would consider edgy, and I'm not quite at that point, but I am finding myself less drawn to wearing black, which a lot of what I consider my edgy pieces are black. So edgy typically comes into my style for me in my shoes and accessories. Don't necessarily think a lot of my clothes is edgy. Like maybe there are a couple pieces in terms of like the color and print, but as a whole, edginess comes from my handbags and my shoes, typically my like chunky boots. I have always loved this kind of juxtaposition. I can never say that word. I don't know if I nailed it just then. But it comes from this idea of something really feminine with something edgy. Like I've always loved how that looked. And so that has been like a key focus with my style over the last couple of years. Like I said earlier, like I'm finding myself drawn to wanting to explore more of like this feminine style and less of this edginess. And there is a word that I'm like thinking of that I might replace edgy with, and that word is alluring. Alluring in the way that I almost want my style to be a little bit mysterious, a little bit kind of sensual and sexy. And I feel like that's going to come from more playing with this kind of feminine style and maybe adding elements of like colors and like textures and lace and my physical appearance. I think that my hair has really played a big part in me wanting to kind of explore other words. And I don't know, I just really like the sound of the word alluring as a part of my style words. So edgy might get thrown out the door this year and alluring might be in. But what that looks like in practice, like the word alluring, it's really hard for me to describe. I'm doing my best to try and describe it, but I'm kind of going to give you a visual here with like some Pinterest inspo that I would consider that has quite an alluring style. Yeah, edgy is my second style word that I still currently use, but may end up getting the boot. And then my last style word that I use is unexpected. Again, I'm not sure if this word is going to stay around, but it is one that allows me to be quite playful with my style and change things up. So the way I use unexpected is through kind of choosing an element of my outfit that is unexpected. So a really good example would be like the typical thing is to use like the sandwich method when it comes to like your shoes and your bag. So like pairing your shoes with your bag being in the same color or the same fabric. Whereas like with unexpected, choosing the opposite, right? So if I'm wearing black shoes, go for a colored bag or vice versa. So not doing that kind of sandwich method. Or unexpected in the way that I layer my clothes. So I consider layering like a mini dress over top of jeans to be something that I would consider unexpected. So it's just having an element or like a detail to the outfit that makes it more interesting because it's not the typical choice. So those are the 3 words that I've come up with. Those are what I'm currently using to get dressed every morning. This is Kylo, by the way. He is massive. He is a rag doll. He's a big boy. You can see how massive he is. I definitely think this is something that we can revisit in a couple of months. I want to do a few videos before then, kind of taking you through me exploring the more feminine side of my style and also potentially exploring the like alluring style word. The way I see myself doing this is through setting aside a bit of a budget. And I really want to do a video where I buy from 3 brands for the first time. My friend Lucy has been doing this series. I think it's called Long Time Scroller, First Time Shopper, where she buys from a brand for the first time. So I essentially want to do that. I want to set a budget and do like maybe 1 or 2 items from 3 different brands for one video. I've got Ty running around, so if you hear his little jingle, that's what that is. But yeah, so I want to do 1 or 2 items from 3 brands that I've been having my eye on that particularly lean into that feminine and alluring style word, and kind of just explore that and kind of see if those items end up into my regular rotation. Because it's one thing to buy something and for it to just be worn once versus buying something and it ends up being something you wear over and over and over again. So I definitely want to give a bit of time to see how those things incorporate into my wardrobe and if I feel drawn to wearing those more than some other pieces in my wardrobe. And yeah, definitely interested to see if that edgy word gets kicked out. I thought another video I could do is for a week only dressing to that feminine style word and see if I end up missing my edgy pieces, because I feel like that's a really good way to see if like I'm kind of done with that part of my style. I feel like it's such an interesting topic and conversation to have, especially as someone whose style has developed a lot over the last kind of 6 or 7 years. Like I was never into fashion during my like high school, teen years, early adult. I only really got into fashion after I lost a bunch of weight, started putting my life online. I could start fitting into straight size brands, which is honestly very sad to say, but that is the reality of it. Like fashion does cater to smaller bodies so much more than plus size bodies. It is getting better, but I still think there's a long way to go. Yeah, my style has evolved and changed a lot over the years. I've had major life changes that have contributed to that, like 1, losing a bunch of weight, 2, I had a breast reduction, I then got cancer and then lost all weight here and had to like rediscover myself after that, especially when all my cancer treatments made me so nauseous to my colorful clothes that after I finished treatment, I had to sell a bunch of stuff because I literally could not put them on my body without feeling sick. So I've been through a lot in my life that has really changed my style. It is something that I'm still figuring out, and I think a lot of us are figuring it out. I think there's nothing wrong with taking a long time to figure out your personal style. Trends are ever evolving, your life experiences are ever evolving, that you're not just going to have one style for the rest of your life, and you don't need to figure out what that style is and just stick to that style for the rest of your life. You just want to be a part of the video. Hey, gonna say hello? Yeah. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. What are we looking at? Okay, we're sitting at about 17 minutes. So by the time I edit out all my little ums and ahs where I've like tripped up my sentence, we're probably looking at like a good amount of time of me just chatting away in my unfinished kitchen. I would love to hear your thoughts on style words if you have any, maybe ones that you're, oh my God, you are a menace. Maybe you have style words, maybe you don't. Just whatever your thoughts and opinions are on style words, I'd love to hear them below. I hope you don't mind this more like casual, just talking to the camera video. When I'm in a funk, like it is a little bit hard to get out of, and sometimes I just need to sit the camera down and just film something, and hopefully that's going to give me the motivation I need to get back into the swing of things. But yeah, if you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye.